Most of us flip a light switch and don't give it a second thought. But hidden just behind the drywall, there's this incredibly complex system working 24/7. And sometimes it's actually trying to talk to us, to send out these little warning signals. So in this explainer, we're going to figure out how to decode them.
And that's a really important question, isn't it? Because knowing the answer is absolutely key to keeping your home and your family safe. You see, from weird sounds to even weirder smells, your electrical system has its own language. So, let's learn how to speak it.
All right, first up, let's talk about the most common warning signs. These are those little glitches you might be tempted to just brush off, but they can actually be signals of much, much bigger dangers lurking right behind your walls. We've all seen this, right? You turn on the vacuum or the microwave and the lights kind of dip for a second. Now, a quick flicker can be totally normal, but if it's happening a lot, that persistent flickering is a huge red flag. It could mean you've got loose wiring or an overloaded circuit that's just struggling to keep up. Now, this is a big one. This is something you absolutely cannot ignore. Your electrical panel, that breaker box, it should be dead silent. If you're hearing any kind of buzzing or humming coming from it, that is a loud and clear alarm bell. It often means a breaker is failing or a connection is loose, and both of those things can get dangerously hot.
This next one is going to sound a little weird. You might think a problem would have a burning smell, but one of the most classic signs of an electrical issue is actually a fishy odor. I know, it's strange, but that very specific smell comes from the plastics and chemicals in your outlets or switches getting way, way too hot. So if you smell fish and you're not cooking, it's time to call a pro immediately. And hey, the list goes on. I mean, if you're constantly running to the basement to reset a breaker, that's not a fix, that's a symptom. If you touch a switch and it's warm, whoa, that could mean dangerous arcing is happening behind it. And if your living room looks like a spider web of extension cords, that's a classic sign your home just doesn't have enough outlets to keep up safely.
So we've seen all the symptoms, but now let's talk about the actual disease. What do these warning signs really mean? Well, they often point to very specific and very hidden dangers, especially if you live in an older home. For anyone in a home built between about 1965 and 1973, you need to listen up. To save some money back then, a lot of homes were built with aluminum wiring instead of copper. But here's the flaw. Aluminum expands and contracts a lot more with heat, so over the years, those connections get looser and looser, which creates heat, and that can easily start a fire.
Another one of these hidden dangers could be the breaker panel itself. There are a couple of older brands, specifically Federal Pacific and Zinsco, that are just notorious for failing. I mean, a breaker has one job: trip and cut the power when there's a problem. But these panels, they often don't. The wires just keep getting hotter and hotter, creating a massive fire risk.
And just think for a second about how much our lives have changed. A house from the 60s probably had a 60-amp panel, which was fine for the time. But today, we've got central air, giant TVs, computers in every room, and now we're plugging in our cars. A 60-amp panel just can't handle that load. It's like trying to power a sports car with a couple of AA batteries. The modern standard is 200 amps for a very good reason. Okay, I know, that was a lot of scary news. But here's the good part. Every single one of these problems has a solution. So let's talk about the modern safety upgrades that can protect you and your home.
First up is the GFCI. You have definitely seen these. They're the outlets with a little test and reset buttons, usually near a sink. Their job is simple, but it is so important. They protect people from getting shocked. If it senses even a tiny bit of current going where it shouldn't, like through you, it snaps the power off in a fraction of a second. And by the way, you should be pushing that test button every month just to make sure it's working.
And then there's its partner, the AFCI. Think of this one like a smoke detector, but for your wiring. Its job is to prevent fires. It's actually designed to listen for the specific electrical crackle of a dangerous arc fault. That's basically a tiny spark inside your wall. And when it hears that, it shuts the circuit down before that spark can catch anything on fire. Just like GFCIs, these have a test button you should be checking regularly.
So you might be thinking, hey, I can install one of those myself, and I'm going to stop you right there. Installing these devices, and really any kind of electrical work, is one area where DIY stands for Don't Involve Yourself. There are strict safety codes for a reason, and this is a job for the pros.
Look, trying to save a few bucks by skipping the permit and doing it yourself can cost you so much more in the long run. The safety codes are there for a reason. If you do unpermitted work and it causes a fire, your insurance company could just walk away and deny your claim. Not to mention, it can become a huge legal and financial nightmare when you ever try to sell your house. So, you know you need help, but
what does that actually look like? Calling an electrician can feel kind of intimidating, right? But a true professional is going to make the process really clear and transparent. And knowing what to expect is going to empower you to find the right person for the job.
It really should be this simple. Step 1, you schedule the service. Step 2, they come out and diagnose the real problem, not just the symptom, and then explain the solution and the cost. And this part is crucial. They don't do any work until you approve it. And finally, step 3, they make the repair and test everything to make sure it's all safe. And this right here, this is the golden rule. This is how you protect yourself. A reputable pro will never start working without your approval. They're going to give you a clear, written estimate that breaks down the cost of everything. No surprises, no hidden fees. The price you agree to is the price you should pay, period.
So that brings us right back to the big question. After hearing all of this, is your home's electrical system a silent partner, quietly keeping you safe? Or is it trying to warn you about a danger that you just can't see? Thanks for watching.